huge protests at the Samsung India plant near Chennai in Tamil Nadu for around a month now, demanding higher wages, improvement in working conditions and demands to recognize Samsung India union workers. The last demand has become a hugely sticking point. Samsung has responded to the demands with offer of special incentive of 5,000 rupees per month, special incentive from October 2024 till March 2025, followed by salary adjustments for 2025-26. But in response to recognize worker unions, Samsung has said they will directly communicate with workers instead of unions. With 85% of 1,700 workers of Samsung India plant participating in the protests and striking work, the reduction in operational capacity is impacting the festive season, production and supply. In fact, recognition of the trade union at this point is emerging as a huge sore nerve. Remember, Samsung has gone on to say they will directly communicate with the employees rather than unions. Largely, organizations, including foreign companies in India, have resisted indulging with worker unions, in fact, worrying about control over organizations' operations, disruption of business operations, legal administrative burden in India. Worker unions have been at the center of several crucial rights movements, garnering international attention. Foxconn 2021 in Tamil Nadu. Remember, there was a demand for higher wages, better working conditions, protests by thousands of young women workers. Chennai-Bangalore highway was blocked. They were backed by unions very strongly. The impact visible as Foxconn agreed to address grievances, but tensions remained over recognition of unions. Sterlite 2018, Thoothukudi, Tamil Nadu. Remember the demand for closure of copper smelting plant over health, environment concerns. Large-scale protests turned violent. There was police firing, resulting in multiple fatalities. The plant was indefinitely closed after violence and public outcry. Huge protests again. Maruti Suzuki 2012 Manesar. Many would remember this in Haryana. Demand for better wages, working conditions, recognition of unions was just one demand. Massive protests, work strikes led to violent clashes. Workers and managements were involved in these clashes. In fact, clashes resulted in a manager's death as well. The unions were highly actively involved in advocating for workers' rights. Impact significant changes in labor relations at the Maruti Suzuki. Increased scrutiny on labor practices after the unrest. Well, all of this, of course, what's happening in Samsung is also coming at a time when Tamil Nadu has been aggressively pushing for foreign investment. During Chief Minister M.K. Stallin's recent visit to the United States, the state secured pacts of investment of over 7,000 crore rupees worth from US companies. And it's not just Tamil Nadu. Remember, it's a situation across states where states are wooing and clamoring for foreign investments, and particularly with India's proposed labor law reforms. Remember, it's passed by the parliament, but it's yet to be implemented. The centre has gone on to say that they are looking at how to implement this. There's been resistance. They have been cheered by the businesses, but have left unions extremely worried with easier hire and fire rules and, of course, a very tightened criteria for recognizing labor unions. Across the world, if you look at US, Australia, UK, Japan, Netherlands, Switzerland are seeing a decline in labor unions. That's right, including USA and Australia. They, in fact, top the charts when it comes to a drastic decline in the functioning of worker unions. India, quite an exception to all of this largely, but lots of regulations that have been brought in place. In fact, one of the things that many foreign companies often speak about are the labor laws, are about the unions that are at work. It's a very close walk when it comes to rights of workers, organized rights of workers, right to be organized, a fundamental right that they cater to versus ease of doing business and what they claim is hijacking their agendas, as it were. Let's just try and look at the nuances of all that's unfolding. I'm being joined at this point by S. Harish Mohammed Ibrahim, who's a political analyst, Kovai Satyan, who's a spokesperson for AIADMK. I'm also being joined by Kishore Subramanian, who's a financial expert, Vivek Srivastav, who's a trade union expert, Pradeep Maur, who's a leader for the BJP. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. It's a complex subject, but hugely relevant. Let me just at this point come to you first, Mr. Vivek Srivastava. Unions are saying, worker unions, trade unions are saying it's our right to be represented, it's our right to be organized, it's our right to ensure that we get the fair deal that we are working for, wages, collective strength, so on and so forth. But how do you look at this going forward, considering companies after companies, corporates after corporates, foreign investors after foreign investors have really raised this as a concern? But particularly in this case, Vivek Srivastava, do we have any, would you know of how this is going to go forward, considering at least we are told over 200 workers were detained earlier today and let off in the evening? How is this looking on the ground?
First of all, let me tell you that the trade unions are a very big necessity across the world. The countries that you mentioned have already crossed the threshold from developing countries into developed countries. So you cannot compare India with Australia or maybe other countries. There are strong unions in the United States of America still. McDonald's, Subway, all these have got strong workers' union. Strikes are also over there and revisions happen. However, social security provided by the government is huge over there. We do not have a social security system here in place for the workers. So if you are doing hire and fire over here, when you fire somebody, is there any social security being provided by the central or the state government for that person? This is true for any employee, even you as an anchor. If somebody is fired, what is the social security being provided by the government? Australia provides it. Many other places provide it. Point number one. Point number two, we used to fight with the British companies in this country, pre-independence, and that is how the labor laws came into being. AITUC, the oldest trade union federation of this nation, was formed in 1920s. And then, interacting with those British companies, labor laws started being written and slowly they kept on being amended. However, this central government, the Modi government, has got it into 4 labor codes and they passed the bill in 2019. They are absolutely anti-worker, totally hire and fire, no security. If you have below 50 number of workers, no rules. Strikes are illegal. ESMA can be evoked anytime. If you want to go for strike, you have to give us 60 days notice. Which means today I fall and I die and a machine crushes me, my employer doesn't act, the union wants to do something, give a 60 days notice. So we oppose this. As far as Samsung is concerned, it is very clear. Without a union, it is very difficult. The corporates need to understand to deal with the workers. When you deal with stray workers, even negotiating is very, very difficult. When you have unions in place, the workers have one platform to talk. And that is why Samsung needs to understand that having a union is better for the corporates. Having a union doesn't mean harassment always. A stray worker can come, can go, can stab, can move, can fight, be violent. Is there any mechanism to control him? But when a union is there in a company, it controls the workers. It is more disciplined. There is a platform to negotiate. There are talks. When there are strikes, notices are given. People know their boundaries. And Samsung, that is why, needs to get matured up. And this model of the central government, the model of the central government of Make in India, we don't support it. Okay, the labor is cheap over here, you need to give cheaper rates.
Okay, hold it. I'll get Pradeep Maur to respond to that. But before I go to Pradeep Maur, Kishore Subramaniam, let me just get you in at this point. Kishore Subramaniam, it is a sore thumb. Now, you have Vivek Srivastava, who's gone on very clearly to say, listen, having trade unions is not always just negative. It's also about rights of workers. What is the problem in recognizing them? Trade unions are not anti-India laws. So why do companies, in this particular case, Samsung say, of course, in this case, it is sub judice, by the way. It is sub judice. But, I mean, trade unions are not against the Indian laws. So when a company that's functioning here says, we will speak to employees directly, but not to... as it were with the workers' unions, how is this supposed to be seen? How do you see it? How do you look at this?
Okay, so first, let me accept the fact of the matter that it is not wrong to have a union, but let me understand that why Samsung, and let me explain to your viewers that why Samsung or any other large multinational corporate is unwilling to recognize the union. See, fundamentally, if you look at why deunionization of countries or corporates across the world has happened, it is because these unions use strike as their fundamental mechanism. Nobody is saying that labor law should not be there. If somebody is terminated on a wrong note, you have every right to go to the court. You can file in the labor court. You can go and do arbitration. That's perfectly all right. But the fact is that, tell me, will there be a single union in this country who is willing to accept that you will be allowed to form a union, but you can't strike? Now, strike is a wrong mechanism. Now, take the classic case of Bengal and Kerala. What has happened to Bengal and Kerala? Today, these two states are completely deindustrialized only because of labor union. This business of Cholbena will not happen, we will strike, is a business. See, when it is sub judice, you have labor courts, you have high courts, you can go against the organization. I do understand that corporates or any organization has an upper hand, and the agreements or the contracts or the letters of offers are one-sided. But remember, it is not a country where the courts are closed. Can a union agree to a clause that you can't strike? Let the union represent and talk on behalf. But here in this particular case, let's come to Samsung's issue. Is this a case of where somebody has died? Or is it a case of somebody has been ill-treated? Nothing of that sort. Mr. Vivek, as much as I appreciate the fact of the requirement of the labor rights, the codification was important, because if you want to become a 5 trillion economy or an economy that competes, and from a developing nation to a developed nation, you need to understand
we don't want it at the cost of the blood of the working class. We don't want it at the cost of the blood of the working class.
Mr. Vivek, I am fighting a corporate.
We don't want it at the cost of the sweat and the blood
No,
of the working class.
hold it. Let me just get in at this point. No, there are two important questions, okay? Hold it. I think both of you, Kishore Subramanian, Vivek Srivastav, have very important perspectives. Let me just come in. Let me ask both of you, because again, I'm saying you both may be at the extreme ends of each other, but nonetheless, you both have a very important view. Vivek Srivastav. Now, Kishore Subramanian asked, can trade unions agree to no strike? Correct me if I'm wrong. In Kerala, you do have pockets like, and he mentioned Kerala, and that's why I'm saying about West Bengal. These two states are often used as classic examples of how working unions have destroyed the corporate culture, as it were, created roadblocks. Chief ministers have had to work extremely hard to ensure that that culture is broken down. But correct me if I'm wrong, technoparks and several other IT conglomerate areas have a no strike policy. Am I right? Am I wrong? I don't know. You could correct me on that.
There is a very strong trade union representation in these companies at the policy making level. That is the first truth that I am trying to tell you about Kerala. There are very strong working hours defined. If it is 8 hours, it is 8 hours. And the ground reality is, madam, one individual laborer who is very low paid is not in a position to go to courts and fight his case, which drags on for years. The union mechanism is the easiest mechanism for him, so that somebody listens to him. And that is why workers of the world should unite. When workers are united and union is over there, individual exploitation of a poor man doesn't happen. Or these multinationals will just use you and throw you. I know so many cases when accidents have happened and small and mid-sized enterprise don't even pay the compensation. You go to these small industrial belts.
Kishore Subramanian, Vivek Srivastava has a point. I mean, you are saying courts are open. How long does one go around the courts? Secondly, how much money does anybody have to go around the courts? You're talking about people who are not very highly paid in many cases.
Yeah, madam, let me tell you, my own brother died in COVID and he was not paid the notice period, and I am fighting the court case for 3 years. So I do appreciate Mr. Vivek's point. But remember, if you are talking about the lack of ability of an individual to go to the court and fight petitions after petitions in every other court, do remember that the unions also don't have the right to hijack businesses and strike. Today it's a festive season. The amount of money that Samsung is losing is not 1 rupee or 2 rupee. It's millions of dollars. This is not allowed. You have a right to fight, but there has to be a ceiling and a methodology. I am fighting the court for my brother's death, where there is a lack of compensation of insurance, which was not given because he was not given the notice period.
And
Okay, let me just get in other panelists at this point. Let me just get in other panelists. S. Harish, Mohammed Ibrahim, if I can get you in. Now, let's just look at what's unfolding in your state. You had Chief Minister Stalin go out, reach out to companies, to corporates abroad, ask them to come and invest. And as I said, it's not just Chief Minister Stalin's story, it's chief ministers after chief ministers who are trying to do this, including the Prime Minister, who's going all out for this. How is this going to be resolved? Because while this case is sub judice, you have arrests, you have detentions that are being made. Around over 200 people who were detained, workers, protesting workers, they have been, of course, let off in the evening, is what I'm being told. Samsung maintaining, according to sources, that they will only talk to employees directly, not to unions. And if you look at Tamil Nadu, cases after cases after cases, whether, you know, at least 3 or 4 cases that I have been able to go through over the last few years, just about have been from Tamil Nadu with a standoff with the trade unions. How is this a huge challenge for the government in Tamil Nadu?
Yeah, of course. After the Chief Minister Stalin has took over as a oath, he came up with a 1 trillion economy motto as the first predominant, and they are working towards it. And the Industry Minister through TRB Raja and the MSME Minister, and we had our Thangam Tennarasu, our Finance Minister, speak exclusively to the Samsung Welfare Board. And what happens here is the Samsung has agreed to the 16-point agenda, which has been set over by the Samsung Employees Union. And only the last point, which they are seeking out for Samsung Trade India Union, for which they have a patented thing. They don't want to give the name as Samsung. They agreed to have a union within the employees. They don't want any political affiliated parties to go ahead and come inside and rule their board. And number 2, they want to go ahead with the law of this land, but only thing is they don't want to go ahead and make sure this as a political driven platform, as they have as an MNC, they have their own standard operating procedures in which they have to operate on. Number 3, they have almost agreed to each and every welfare schemes, welfare measures which was been asked by the employees. And out of 1,783 employees, only around 700 has been out on work, out on strike, and almost 2/3 of the majority has been inside the production unit. That is what the other employees been claiming for. And number 4, all the 3 ministers had been almost 10 hours of thorough speakings on behalf of the employees as well as the development of the state. They have to take care of all 3 sides of the pyramid. They have to speak for the government, they have to speak for the union, they have to speak for the employees. But now, where does this CITU, which is an affiliate subsidized body of CPI Marxist, leading this employee strike to, is what a big question mark. Because all the demands of these employees, which has been seeking for almost 16 points, has been set right without even a negotiation. The management has been agreed to it, and the government has made sure that management of Samsung agree to each and every point with meticulous planning. And number 5, where does this CITU CPI Marxist Communist is leading these employees who are going to lose not only their 1 month salary, but they are going to even have a speculation that the board is going to move towards Noida. Whether another doubt is also spewing inside the state, whether the CPI Marxist Communist has
Vivek
any
Srivastav,
kind of
do you want to
nefarious
respond to these very strong allegations coming in from DMK? Again, at the heart of it, what DMK is claiming at this point, what the government is saying at this point is Samsung India plant has agreed to the demands, but what it is not agreeing to is politicization of unions. How would you look at this?
That is exactly the problem. That is exactly the problem why unions end up ruining states after
no,
state.
No, that is no problem. Listen to me
has
first.
their own rights
Listen
to
to me
have
first.
a SOP.
Listen
They
to me
operate
first.
on an SOP. They operate on an SOP. They have the rule of
Okay,
law
allow
land.
Vivek Srivastav to speak, please.
Operate on SOP. Unions only.
Okay,
SOP
all right. Allow
outside.
Vivek Srivastav to speak, please.
First of all, you need to know the history of the trade union movement. It is the trade union movements which came first, and from these trade union movements, the parties came into formation. AITUC was first, and then from AITUC, CPI was formed as the political wing representing these workers. It is not the other way around. CPI doesn't drive AITUC, CPM doesn't drive C2. It is C2 and AITUC which drive the political representations. You need to understand this first. 1920 AITUC was formed. 1925 from AITUC CPI was formed. I mean, this is the first logic. Secondly, LPF, which is from South India, from Tamil Nadu, your own state, it is our ally in our trade union federations, in our group, along with C2, AITUC, LPF is also there. And C2, LPF, AITUC, we all fight together in North India, in Maharashtra, in Gujarat, against these big giants which exploit the people. So it is not C2 alone. Every federation has got some or the other political linking, and it is necessary. Why don't you want the workers to be politically aware of things? It has been there since 1947 and before. It has been going on since the time of the British. Okay?
Okay, Kishore Subramaniam, very quickly make your point. Very quickly make your point, Kishore Subramaniam.
Yeah. See, Mr. Vivek, all your history, geography is fantastic. The end result is there are two states which are deindustrialized, bankrupt, currently politically ruined. Singur is a classic example.
No.
The way Tata moved.
Sir. In a developing country, trade unions have to be there.
Trade unions have to be there, but they have to have limited power.
Also, it's a bit rich to say the two states are politically ruined. I think let's just stick to trade unions at this point. Let's not question the political legacies
one second.
and political cultures that people have elected.
Yes.
Can I respond?
Yes, please, Mr. Harish.
No, I just want to say one thing. Okay.
Mr. Harish, go ahead, please.
Okay, I'll speak. See, banks. Okay.
Mr. Harish, very quickly, you want to make your point.
Should I counter?
Yeah.
Mr. Harish Ibrahim, I think you wanted to make a point very quickly. If you want to make it 30 seconds.
Myself?
Right.
Okay, I don't think he can hear me. I wonder. Okay. Mr. Srivastav, go ahead. Vivek Srivastav, go ahead.
See, we have unions in the railways, we have unions in the ordnance factories, we have unions in the bank, LIC has a union. All these are affiliated with various trade union federations. Workers meet, discuss, meet the government, give representations, negotiate, and the country goes forward. That is how pay commissions are decided.
Okay.
That is how Mengai Bhatta is decided. That is your dearness allowance. And that is how things happen in this country. Samsung is being mischievous and it needs to be put in place. It has no business to come here and tell us in India which
Okay,
union
let me
is
get
right
in
and which
Pradeep
is
Maur.
wrong.
Pradeep
And
Maur,
whether
if I can
unions
have
should be
you in.
politically affiliated
Pradeep
or
Maur,
not.
let's look at the recent labor laws, the reforms that have been mooted. It's under Prime Minister Modi. Now, you heard what Vivek Srivastava said. He said it's absolutely anti-worker rights. These labor laws are something that have been cheered by the businesses. Unions have condemned these laws. But why is this in limbo? Why isn't this being implemented? If this is something that is what the government wants to be implementing, why isn't it being implemented? Why was it shelved for the elections? And even now, why is it not being implemented?
Look, we have to understand one thing, that as far as all your panelists are concerned, they all agree on one point. That is, as economy grows, the utility of these trade unions automatically, or utility of these labor unions automatically waived out. The reason is that as the economy grows, there is more demand of people that is there. So because of more demand, more facilities are there, more wages are there, and people are not interested in any of these kind of unions. So in order to increase the business, or in order to make the economy going, what important thing is there should not be any strikes at all. If somebody is doing a strike and talking about the labor welfare, they are actually doing more harm to the labor than the corporate. Because ultimately what they are doing is they are bringing corporate to the losses. And if corporate is at loss, then ultimately they will not be able to provide the employment to more people.
Are you saying trade unions are antithetical to corporates? Is that what you're saying? Am I hearing you right?
Yeah.
Are you saying trade unions, worker unions are antithetical to corporates?
No, not only corporates, even to the workers also. Because if they are asking workers to go for the strike, they are doing a crime. Because ultimately what will happen is companies will not be interested in that area. As quoted by one of your panelists, what he said, there were, 80% of GDP was contributed by West Bengal. Now, what is the situation? Most of the trade labor unions were active in this area. What happened now? That state has gone to bankruptcy. So, if we are going to create such kind of environment in India, that is going to be very difficult for the corporates to operate in this environment. Rather, we should be producing a conducive environment or providing a better environment to the corporate to operate. Definitely, if there is some issue with the laborers, that should be handled. There is an HR, there is an HR department, there are courts are there. They can register the cases in the court, and trade union should be there, but trade union should be having very limited powers. And if somebody is asking laborers to go for the strike, they are ultimately harming the laborers as well as the corporate both. So they are spoiling the environment.
Okay.
This is what
Do
is
we
the
have
problem
Kovai
with
Satyan?
the
I believe
leftist
we've
kind of
had an
organizations.
issue with
They're
Kovai
spoiling the
Satyan's line.
complete
He's had to
business
wait quite a
environment.
bit. Okay, I believe Kovai Satyan is not there. Let me just get in Kishore Subramaniam to what Pradeep Mawar has said. Kishore Subramanian, is it even possible to have trade unions and have their powers restricted? Isn't that, again, quite an oxymoron in itself?
No, the only thing they need to be restricted are two.
And let's be
One,
fair,
you
Indian
can't
laws
stop
don't
at will.
provide for curtailing the rights of trade unions.
No, no. See, you can't have growth. If you're aiming for a 1 trillion economy, you will have 1 trillion strikes. See, Bengal and Kerala are proof of the pudding of all these trade unions, completely deindustrialized, hartals after hartals. No industry wants to work. Ultimately, it becomes harassing the entrepreneur, and no entrepreneur. I am born and brought up in Bengal. I know what is the condition. I am an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I am from Chennai. I am fighting.
Can I
with
ask
the
you
youth
one thing? Can I ask you one thing? Can I ask you one thing?
Can I make a point?
Kishore
Can I make a point?
Subramaniam, while you may have a point, I have to ask you one thing. Even today, people from all states, and this is something that I have seen in Kerala, that's why I'm saying, why are people moving to Kerala for work, for employment, for labor, from across states? Look at the steep increase in migrant workers. Why is that happening? If the entire system is collapsing, why are they moving to a state where you have minimum wages, you have much higher wages than is given in many other states when equivalent? Why is that at the end? I'm asking you a very practical question because you are again and again referring to Bengal and Kerala models that have failed. But the truth of the fact is it's only because of those labor unions, which also are a huge headache in many cases, and many people have spoken about it. But they have also worked to the advantage of the people who are able to fight for their wages and their employment.
Can I come in? Can I come in?
No, you have asked me this question. Let me give you a very detailed answer. Just give me 1 minute. I'm not going to take more than 60 seconds. Point number one.
I will.
People are
I'll give you a minute, and as Harish Mohammed Ibrahim, after that I'll come to you, but please.
Okay, let me complete my point. People are not migrating to Kerala for any work. The youngsters are leaving Kerala. Whether it is Bengal or Kerala, people are leaving. The youngsters are leaving. Point number two. You do not, I will give you an example of how bad the union condition is.
Well.
There is something called as no kukuli in Kerala. You know what does that mean? If I see you working, I'll charge you. Which means if I shift my house from my one area to another area, I have to pay the local goon. That is what unions have led to. Do not forget the ground reality. Let's not talk from some pedestal without knowing the truth of the matter. Industrialization has been completely screwed up. The entire Kerala youth is in Gulf. It is NRI money that runs the economy. The locals leave the land, and all the labor wages and fights can be working well, provided you have curbed allowance for
Vivek
the union.
Srivastav, you can't negate every point that Kishore Subramanian is saying.
It's all, yes.
These are facts.
No, I mean, we talk of balance. He doesn't understand that in this country, my dear friend, 118 Indians control the wealth and the resources of this nation in a nation of 140 crore people. Do you know this?
I don't want to laugh at you on
the amount of economic disparity in this country? Do you know that this? Oh, first listen to me first now. Be patient and listen now. 80 crore people, 80 crore people have to be given ration by the government in this nation. Do you know this? And you are talking about people going and fighting cases. 80 crore people are being fed by this Modi government. This is the condition of the people. And you are comparing it with Australia, you are comparing it with United Nations. And,
You
sorry,
want to
United
make
States.
you want to make
What
it
ridiculous.
Zimbabwe and Zambia.
Here
What?
you have to protect the rights of the labor.
You keep
Because the
on
labor
protecting
are
the rights of the
vulnerable, there
labor.
is no such social
This is
security
not the
given by
method
the
to protect
government.
the rights.
Okay.
Yes, I will.
Okay. Let me just get
We
in
will.
S.
This
Harish,
is the
Mohammed
only
Ibrahim. We are
method.
totally running out of time. Mohammed Ibrahim, please make your point.
As I said earlier, the Tamil Nadu state government is so pertinent to make sure the employees' welfare is maintained, as well as they achieve the goal of 1 trillion economy through whatever the development phase, but not at the cost of any kind of discomfort to the employees. And number two, as we said earlier, what kind of trade union we are looking out for, which gives the employees benefit. And now here in this juncture, the Samsung has given all the 15 signed agendas which the employees needed for, and the only one which is the matter which is sub judice regarding the employees trade union registration. Even for that matter, the Samsung has agreed to have a union within their premises, within their employees, and any kind of employee leaders can form a union. That is what they meant for. And the third, they are only the matter sub judice which is pending is to use their proprietary name of Samsung, for which they are operating as an MNC. They have a certain operating procedures, which the law of land also should accomplish to. And number four, as we said earlier, the 1
Okay, I'm
trillion
going to ask a
economy can't
complicated
be
question to
derailed
both
by
of you. Mr.
any-
Ibrahim as well as Mr. Pradeep Mahur. A complicated question to both of you. Despite your political differences, are you on the same side when it comes to how unions need to be dealt with?
Of course, the union has to be dealt with much more ease at the
As
much
far
more
as the
the same
economy is
kind of
concerned,
the same.
everybody's on
No,
the
no.
same.
One
Every
second.
Indian
No,
should be on the same.
The trade union.
Mr. Ibrahim, I'm going to repeat my question again. Hold it. I'm going to rephrase my question. I'm going to ask it because this is an important question. Despite you being from, with the DMK as well as the BJP, both the parties have very different political ideologies. But when it comes to how the unions need to be handled, are both of the parties on the same peg in today's India?
Because as a ruling government,
Ibrahim.
whether be it in union or be it in state, we want to deal both the government side, both the employment side, both the employer side. So it is a pyramid-like structure. For any ruling government, these three aspects should be taken care with an utmost sincerity, where we create jobs, where create an economy which benefits a nation building. So we don't sideline the employees union or forming of any kind of labor union at all. The employee union should have a coherence with the government. Whenever we need the benefits of the employees being met, the agendas have been signed by the employer, then we have to back off and be
Okay, Pradeep Mahar, are you on the same page? So essentially, BJP and DMK, are you both on the same page when it comes to your stance with respect to workers' unions?
As a ruling government, whether be it union or whether be it state,
okay, Pradeep Mahar, I'm running time. I heard you, Mr. Ibrahim. Can I have Pradeep Mahar, please?
Right. Objective of BJP government is to provide a conducive environment to corporates so that they can operate properly and provide more employment to the people. If there is more employment, there will be better working conditions in India. Definitely, if there is some issue that should be dealt with,
Not
if there is some issue with the laborers,
not necessarily. More working, more employment doesn't necessarily mean better working conditions.
Yeah, it will.
That's
That's
a very simplistic view to take.
Look, as far there are rules and regulations, there are the laws for the labor laws are already there. So,
Pradeep Mahar, you'll agree with this? Would you agree with this? More employment doesn't mean that you will have better working employment conditions.
In this case, in Samsung case, what happened? Laborers are provided whatever they wanted. Now, where they are lacking, union is lacking in their power because they are not getting an opportunity to do politics over there. So why are they into politics? Why are they want their power into the company? They should be rather helping the employees.
How can politics be separated from anything? But nonetheless, I get your point, Kishore Subramanian, very quickly. You've been raising your hands. Please go ahead.
Yeah. I would like to quote Cho Ramaswamy here, who said, if there is any future for the left, there is no future left for the country. And that is exactly what trade unions are going to do. This Marxism, this leftist communist ideas, of
You
doing
should
dharnas
go to
will
Sri
spoil the
Lanka.
country.
Leftist communists
You should go to
actually
Sri Lanka and you
spoiling
should go
the
to France.
business of this country.
Okay, this
Absolutely, it
isn't
will
about
disturb the
communists.
growth of the
Nonetheless, I
country. The
get
And
what
country
you're
will
we
trying
be
to say.
ruined.
But
We
Vivek
will stand for
Srivastava,
the
please
worker
go ahead.
rights.
Mr.
I mean,
and
at
we will
the
spoil your
at the
business.
end of the day, this is
Yeah.
a hugely delicate issue. I don't think union
Yeah.
movements are going to end anywhere. But I think as panelists, there's one thing that we all are concerned about. One
Absolutely.
is the rights of workers, and two is the hijack of issues for political motives. And I'm not very sure whether India has been walking that very narrow
is
balance
no worker if there is no
well
rights
enough.
of
company.
workers.
Vivek
For
Srivastava.
rights of workers, you have to go to the court and talk to the company,
There is
corporate.
no
That's it.
worker
No,
if there
see,
is no
Why
absolutely,
company.
you are
strike?
Madam,
right.
you need to
I
understand.
totally
am
agree with you.
absolutely against any kind of a strike.
Okay,
Absolutely,
I'm
there is
out
no
of time.
worker
I've
if
given
there is
all
no
of you ample
company.
time. Kindly allow Vivek Srivastava his time.
Yeah.
Vivek, please go ahead.
I think these people do not understand that if Gandhi did not go for civil disobedience, if Gandhi did not stop the work of the British, this
Against
country would
civil
not have been
disobedience
independent.
was against the-
My dear friends,
against
80
the-
crore people in this country need food from the central
Can I
government.
speak?
80 crore people in this
Civil-
country still need food from the central government, sir. This is this India today.
My
And if
dear
you
friend,
don't
Gandhi
let
has
these
died
poor
long back.
workers even strike when they are
All
when
right,
they
we're
are being
totally out of time.
discriminated against,
But I think
do
there's
not know
one
what
thing
to
that we
call you.
really need to
I do not know
remember,
what to call you.
and this is what India will have to think about very cautiously when it comes to policy formations. While it's looking for foreign investments, while it's trying to attract investors, companies into India, the workers' rights, the manner in which they work, the environment in which they work, and what they take home is hugely important. And India has a very rich history of how this has gone either ways, hijacking the agenda or even working towards the advantage of workers. It's a very tightrope, and India will have to really look at it at the policy level of how this needs to go forward. For now, the standoff at Samsung India plant continues. To our panelists, S. Harish Mohammed Ibrahim, Kovai Satyan, who got disconnected in between, Kishore Subramanian, as well as Vivek Srivastava and Pradeep Mawar. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's time for a short break. On the other side, we'll bring you the latest.